Imagine waking up in the middle of June, expecting warmth and sunlight, only to see snow falling outside your window. Fields that should be green are frozen white. Animals stand still, confused. The air feels wrong. This is not a story from ancient history. This happened in 1816, and no one understood why. It became known as the year without a summer. At the beginning of the 19th century, life depended on the weather. There were no large food reserves, no global trade networks to save a bad harvest. If crops failed, people went hungry. Winter had always been harsh, but summer was supposed to bring relief. Warmth meant growth. Growth meant survival. In early 1816, everything seemed normal. Winter slowly faded. Farmers across Europe and North America prepared their fields. Seeds were planted with quiet optimism. Then the cold returned. In May, frost destroyed young crops in parts of New England. In June, snow fell in New York and Vermont. In July, ice formed on lakes in Europe. People watched the sky, confused. The sun rose each morning, but it felt distant and weak. Days were gray. The air was damp and heavy. Storms arrived without warning. Rain fell for days at a time, flooding fields and washing away seeds. When the rain stopped, freezing winds followed. Nothing grew. Farmers tried planting again and again. Each attempt failed. Corn rotted in the ground. Wheat never matured. Fruit trees produced nothing. Entire harvests were lost. Food prices rose quickly. What little grain existed became too expensive for many families. People sold furniture, tools, and even clothing to buy bread. Some ate animals meant for work. Others ate seed grain, knowing it would cost them the future. In rural areas, families packed what they could and left. They moved west, chasing rumors of better land and warmer weather. Many never made it. In Europe, the situation was even worse. Years of war had already weakened economies. Now famine spread across the continent. Bread riots erupted in cities. Crowds gathered, desperate and angry, demanding food that did not exist. In Ireland, hunger and disease claimed thousands of lives. In Germany and Switzerland, villages were pushed to collapse. Hospitals filled with the starving and the sick. Death became common, so did fear. People searched for answers. Some believed the sun itself was fading. Others thought dark spots on the sun were to blame. Many believed God was punishing humanity. There were rumors of poisoned air, of strange changes in the earth, of the end of the world approaching. Science could not explain what was happening. The constant darkness affected more than crops. It affected the human mind. Letters written during this time describe deep sadness and fear. People spoke of hopelessness, of a sense that nature had turned against them. The sky felt heavy. The future felt uncertain. One place deeply affected by this strange summer was Lake Geneva in Switzerland. A group of young writers had gathered there, expecting a pleasant season by the lake. Instead, they were trapped indoors by endless rain and cold. They passed the time telling ghost stories by candlelight. Among them was Mary Shelley. Surrounded by storms, isolation, and talk of death, she began writing a story about creation and loss. A story born from darkness and unease. That story would become Frankenstein. But while people searched the skies for answers, the true cause was far away. In April of 1815, a year before the strange summer, a massive volcano erupted on the island of Tambora in what is now Indonesia. The eruption was catastrophic. It was one of the most powerful volcanic explosions ever recorded. The blast was heard more than 1,000 miles away. Ash fell from the sky like snow. Entire villages were destroyed in seconds. Tens of thousands of people died. either instantly or in the weeks that followed. But the most devastating effects were invisible. The eruption sent enormous amounts of ash and gas high into the atmosphere, so high that it spread around the entire planet. This ash formed a thin veil around the Earth. Sunlight was blocked, temperatures dropped. The change was small but global. Weather systems collapsed, rain patterns shifted, seasons lost their balance. Summer did not arrive. In 1816, no one knew about Tambora. The eruption happened on the other side of the world. News traveled slowly, if it traveled at all. So people suffered without understanding why. As the year dragged on, desperation grew. Families survived on grass, roots, and scraps. Diseases spread among weakened populations. Crime increased as hunger pushed people to extremes. Governments tried to respond, but they were unprepared. Relief efforts were slow and often ineffective. By late 1816, temperatures slowly began to recover, but the damage had already been done. The year without a summer left lasting scars. In America, it pushed mass migration westward. In Europe, it reshaped farming practices and food storage. Entire generations remembered the cold, the hunger, and the fear. It became a quiet turning point in history, and it left behind a disturbing lesson. Human civilization depends on balance, on predictable seasons, on forces far beyond our control. One distant eruption, unseen by most of the world, was enough to break that balance. Today, the sun still rises, the seasons still turn, but the events of 1816 remain a warning from the past. The earth does not explain itself. It does not offer comfort. Sometimes it simply changes, and humanity is left to endure the consequences.